yourself a little bit.
Oh, I hate that. Let's stop it right now. I know. No, I'm joking. Hey, guys, this is a special moment. I'm reuniting with my team who shoot and record and make pictures in Cannes and Berlin and Venice. And we took this quiet moment to share a little bit indeed with the filmmakers community and figure out, brainstorm how we can help them. So, talking about myself, well, where to start? Studies, yeah, marketing, business school, advertising agency first, which is a very good, we say, école learning process for anything you do in marketing communication, because you have to deal with many different subjects. I dealt with Lux toilet soap, for instance, the soap of the stars, which was my almost transition to film. I had many other brands like Kellogg's, you name it. So each time you learn something different, and when you start, you don't know a thing, and you're supposed to give advice and become the person who will guide the client towards a better communication. So it's a process in your head, how to understand what you're selling or promoting, understand what the others are doing, the competition, and trying to do best, and give the audience, the buyers, the clients, the best reasons to buy. So that was my first learning process into film. I was then hired by a search company, the biggest, the number one company in the world, looking at the time for marketing director for Columbia TriStar film distributors. Then we were merged with Warner. And the way it happened was pretty funny. I met the managing director, the French one, and he gave me a film to watch. On an evening, it was Stand By Me by Rob Reiner, with amazing song, I'm sure you know. I won't sing, don't worry, but you know it. And I was supposed to send in the next morning a 2, 4, 3 pages document about what would I do to promote this film and launch it, which I did, and I basically got the job and was then interviewed by 7 people from the home office of Sony, and it was really the beginning of a very interesting area, because that company was the one that was probably the most country-friendly, whatever, local-friendly. Basically, they were accepting that the local territories could stand up and say, we don't think that the strategy you have designed to launch this film for the world will work for France. We think we should do something better. And I had the chance to convince them on a few occasions, basically the Adventures of Baron Munchausen, Striking Distance, another one, and Mr. Jones. The 3 of them were big flops everywhere in the world. And I managed to convince them to accept my strategy and the French campaign, which we did, and the 3 of them were very big successes. Like Baron Munchausen, like 8 weeks on the #1 at the box office. And this is an advice I give to someone who has a creative brain and happens to have a vision. And if you have a vision, you're really adamant, you really think it's something that must happen, go for it. Go put your guts on the table and go for it. When I was working in the ad agency world, I learned to cut that process. In other words, the one who was the highest in the hierarchy was the one who had the vision. And even though you were below, you had another vision, you would shut up. Okay. Or happened that I said I did things that I thought were best. They happened, but someone tapped on my shoulder and said, hey, it's my job to convince. So I dared. And it happened. It's a long story. It's another story I can share, but it's a different story. I can share the process, how I came up with this strategy. But Bottom line is it worked, and I got the confidence of a home office in LA, and decades after that, the former boss of a studio would even at each time tap me on the shoulder and say, Bruno, you're right. You're right to be a pain in the ass, which I was, because I begged, really, I begged. And I said, because they refused to accept the strategy at first, and I said, please, we made some research, we can do more research to convince you. And said, they accepted. Then they fought the research, which was a qualitative one, where we tested the English campaign against our vision. And our vision won, but they said, yeah, qualitative is not convincing enough. So no. I said, please, let's spend a little bit more and do a quantitative research with 500 people, which, again, our campaign won and said, all right, go for it. Which, that's my advice, which worked. And so you understand that where I came to this process is, like I did in the advertising business, I tried to understand what the film was. Of course, I saw it like 5 times. We had a test group of 500 people in a room. We showed it, and they basically said things like the scenes we love are this one, and that one, let's say A, B, C. And we had the percentage of like against dislike the movie, blah, blah, blah. And it showed that the film was pretty liked, and there were strong elements that people liked in the movie. And I asked a designer at the ad agency, work on this, on these scenes, and try to put them on a poster. Secondly, I researched and found out that the thing that most people knew about the Baron Munchausen was the fact that he was crazy enough when he wanted to travel to shoot a cannon and sit on the bullet. So he would travel against fly. And that became my logo, basically, something like and I asked, all right, logo, put this in the middle, and around this kind of a lot of different elements showing adventure. And I was selling this film basically as the Spielberg Adventures of Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that. Whereas the English people thought it was a movie that would appeal only to, let's say, 20 to 30, like hipsters, I mean, people living in the big cities. I said, no, that's 7 to 77. Family, grandparents and their young children, for everyone. And of course, it's a very big difference in terms of the market. More people and more box office, and that's what happened. So that's just one example, and there are more. But after that, I was offered a job and almost a proposition I couldn't refuse, which was made by the head of Fox, who came to me and said, you are the one we want for this project here in France. We are aligning with UGC, which is a French major, an exhibitor chain, and a bad distributor. Bad movies, a very bad producer. But they thought the combination of an American studio with lots of movies and a French one with theaters could be a smart combination, just like previous years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, before Gaumont and Buena Vista, Disney did a very successful venture. So they said, let's copycat and you run it, and it's your call. White card, you pick anyone you want, blah, blah, blah. But the difference between Sony and Fox was the fact that in one case they believed in local strategy, like I told you, and that brought success, box office success. On the other hand, Fox would tell us and spend really $1 million gathering all the executives from around the world. I was the managing director then, and other territories, to hear the way they wanted to work with us, which was, all right, listen to this. We here in LA design the strategy, you guys in the field implement and execute. I quote them. Bill Mechanic and what's his name? well, forgot, anyway, no name. No, because Bill was smarter than that. And so basically they said, no, you do what you've been told, and whenever a director, a theatrical, a guy in my shoes would say, no, we're going to hit the wall. I see it. It's wrong. The strategy doesn't fit. People don't think it's relevant, blah, blah, blah. They say, yeah, what if you're wrong? And yeah, you have to listen to that, because you may be wrong. If you're smart, you know that, if you're a little bit smart, you know that you don't know everything, and every film is a different story. So you have to be alert. But when you think it's wrong, like day after day, film after film, and you tell them, and they keep telling you, no, do like this. Plus, I mean, the worst film. The worst thing is when they said that this film, everyone as a distributor makes an estimate. It's going to bring us 30 million box office wise, for instance. So one example, I saw it, I said no, not even, before seeing it, I said no, on the paper, on the script, maybe 15 if we're lucky, let's wait for the movie. I see it and say, oh, it's a disaster, no one will buy that. I put 4 in the official communication, shared with everyone in the home office, 4. And I was being polite, because I thought it was close to 0 then. But I swear, in one of his gatherings, the head of international came to me and said, Bruno, if you don't put 12, I'm going to be fired. So I put 9. He was not fired, and the film did 0.5. That was not far from... and what really pissed me is Jim Giannopoulos, yes. Jim calls in the morning and say, yeah, and I quote him again, Bruno, you and I know, so he says, how is the movie? He says, disaster, as I told you. Yeah, of course, Bruno, yeah, you and I know it was bound to happen, which is not what I've been told a couple of months ago. So he would say, yes, you are right. All right, but then he said, but the next movie, and was all starting again, like pressured, very probably pressured to be to put big figures, because of Rupert Murdoch wanted to be reassured that his investment was going to bring things, and being a studio executive is a tough business, of course. Because there is, I heard my boss at Sony say it once, Peter Guber said, it's probably 1 out of 10 movie at the max will recoup. So a studio to survive needs to have 1 or 2 blockbusters success, and should not have more than 1 or maybe 2 max big flops. So it's a risky business. And I understand now, I don't bear a grudge for Jim, but he was under so much pressure. There were rumors that he was about to be fired because the films were bad and therefore results were not. So in this situation, probably you want to say, okay, if I die, I'd prefer die from my own will or way, and therefore do as I tell you. Anyway, so that's.
Nobody knows anything about the box office. Anyway.
It's not easy.
So, how did you get your intuition to say, okay,
AI. AI. No, joking. No. My own personal algorithm. When you're a distributor, you need to keep your eyes open and stuff like that, and basically look at the figures. Every Wednesday, the day we open in France, you have like the 20 films that are opening, or 20 films showing, maybe 10 are opening, 10 are continuing, and you see how much they did on Thursday, and you can translate Thursday into final box office easily. That's how we train mentally. Of course, there are exceptions like Titanic or things that you can't predict. So you see how much they're doing, and you saw what they did. in terms of communication, meaning you have to see and look in the street, posters, campaigns they did, and more or less estimate what they spent, what kind of publicity things they did, and which angles, which big show they took part in, and you build all of that, and then you add another layer like a film with Leonardo DiCaprio does on an average between this and that, a range. A film by Tarantino would do between 1.5 and 5 or whatever. So you basically assess how much it can. That's a guess. And against this estimate of box office revenue, you put a figure of what you think you should do in order of spendings, promotion, advertising, and communication to achieve the awareness that will bring this amount of viewers. And that gives you kind of a balance and if you see that it needs to be, the spendings are higher than the income, then you say, okay, maybe it's not so wise because if we don't anticipate the success, it's going to bore the theaters. Theater owners will kind of want a revenge and not anyway. So the next step in that situation where you're not happy with the negative figure that you see is talk to the other media, video and TV, and make a global media balance. Actually, with Sony and Fox, I invented this, what I just described. Because one day, this same Peter Guber, which was the head of Sony, an amazing guy, an amazing brain, machine gun, a creative machine gun, like bursting with ideas. And I can still remember him talking about the future of cinema, which I saw happen decade after. So he told me once in our office in Paris, say, what would you do if this was your business? My boss said, sorry, Bruno, go for it because I need to go to Velu. It was his way of avoiding conflict or confrontation. He didn't want to answer that question. So I said, I think you should, against a movie, make a global assessment. Not only a judgment based on what's good for theatrical, because we're told when we were told for instances where we said no, it's not worth launching it, and Home Office would say yeah, but it will help the TV and the video because it's no longer, if it went through theatrical, it's no longer it becomes a theatrical film instead of a video movie, and TV don't buy the same amount for that, and so in each cases I was told by TV, say no, you got to release that, it is going to help us. But I would say yeah, but how much is it worth our spending that much against that? So let's do global ABC media, theatrical video and TV assessment of incomes and outcomes and spendings, and see whether globally it's worth it. And that's the way. And they say, yeah, let's do it. And so the guy said, Bruno, but Peter said, yeah, smart, yeah. If you don't hear from me in a week, call me, call my office. And actually, like 3 days after, I had an email saying, we'll do it, and you, France, will be the first territory where we'll implement that. And to be honest, the first meeting we had, they called it the multimedia gathering, with the French guys in the 3 divisions and the bosses in LA and the boss of the bosses. And it was a fight, you have no idea. They shouted, there was an inner someone attacked me, and I defended I was in a position where there was nothing could be said against the way we were doing the business. And at the end of that, the guy who used to run the home video got a heart attack. It was so brutal. And I had never seen my bosses turn red. I mean, defending me against the other, say, and the guy who had the heart attack told in French so that the Americans could not understand, "You're an asshole." And my way, what do you know about marketing? Don't shut up. And anyway, who are you? I earn 10 times more than you, so shut the fuck up. Sorry for that. Beep, beep, beep. Right. Yeah. So it was brutal, but that's the way to do business. And first thing I did when I joined Fox as the managing director of a joint venture with UGC, say, let's do this, because that's the way to make the... So you understood that I was not very happy with the Fox. The films were bad, and UGC had waited for me with all their bad movies on shelf, so that I would release. They saw me and they hired me as they called me a marketing genius and say...
Yeah, I mean, this is genius.
But they didn't work, so...
This is really hard to do in the marketing in the cinema industry anyway. From, I think it's in 1991, Wall Street get into it, and then they have 15% pressure in investing each year. They need to earn this money back. So this big studio have this kind of investment, but they need to earn this money back. And the independent film, they don't really have this money, so they're getting smaller, and the big one got much pressure, so they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 film, which is really boring. So I think the way you found this film festival, this means you can somehow help those independent film to have their...
These days now, I'm working with independent. So it's a very different story. And yeah, you understood, I got a little bit fed up with the Americans and the studios, and to the extent that I want it and I want it now. I couldn't stand that. And then you see this in many blockbusters movies. And so I didn't want to work with American majors anymore. And I turned and became independent. By the way, one of my experiences distributing the film by Francis Coppola, Dracula, where we did some, long story again, a lot of amazing marketing things. And it turned into a very big success with 4.5 million admissions in France. And he was happy. Francis told me, because he liked what I did for him, he said, stop being a dog, become a wolf. Thief. And basically that's what he did. He worked against the system or independently, but also being a very smart person. The next thing he said was the next day, say, hey Bruno, I want you to meet my pack of wolves. Let's have dinner tomorrow. And he picked one of the most expensive restaurants where he would go very frequently. And indeed, there was everyone there, amazing. He's always a cinematographer, the actors from Apocalypse Now and all of that, all his gang. And we ordered wines, and that I ordered like half a day before, so it would be open. But after 30 minutes, everything was gone. We drank, and they were a bit drunk, and I picked the bill, you know, as a dog. And I really enjoyed working with him, and I was instrumental in you know what, those big brains, big creative brains, they not only do films, they watch and they feel and they have ideas and sometimes link to things they like and act on it. So one day he was in Paris, one of his days, and he saw the Colonne Maurice, the nice poster, big towers rotating in Paris, very old design, 1870 or something. I say, this is splendid. I have this idea that it would fit very well in San Francisco. And I know the mayor very well. So connect me, I want to buy shares or whatever. And I said, you can't buy shares because it's a private company, but I'll connect you to the owner, Jean-Claude Decaux, who's a very, very wealthy, very successful entrepreneur running postering sites all over Europe, in the airports, everywhere. And they connected, and we organized a lunch with him. And Francis didn't speak any French, Jean-Claude didn't speak any English, so I translated. And basically, they shared the vision about the city, which Francis was interested in. Very fascinating. But in the end, being very shrewd and a wolf, the final result was Francis' son became part of the board of Jean-Claude Decaux Inc. in the US, and eventually it happened. There are Colin Morris in San Francisco. So this idea about he saw this piece of equipment in the streets of Paris turned into let's do something about it and bring that to my... So anyway, long story short, sorry. Then I became independent and built filmfestivals.com. So the reason I built this is because I've seen, witnessed, I've been acting upon it, that festivals are places where magic can happen, fairy tales happen. And this is a business where fairy tale happen. You read it in the news every time. But film festivals is just one way to make it more likely or more, it's a booster. So, and also remind me of a tagline of a film I worked upon called Field of Dreams. Basically, if you build it, they will come. That was the story in the movie. So you have to use, as a filmmaker, you have to use the film festivals as a place where you showcase, because basically people will judge you after your movie, and in a nice theater rather than a DVD or on a cassette on a cell phone. And film festivals are places where professionals are, many of them, and you never know who's in the audience when you watch. Film festivals are a place where you will bump into a very big producer in the street, provided you know their figure and their face, and you're smart enough to approach them with a way. And so I saw this first time I was in Cannes. My boss and I at Sony, young first timer, at the opening we're sitting behind Steven Spielberg, and at the end of the screening, my boss sitting there taps on his shoulder and say, "Hi, Steven, I'm Steve. Hi, we met in Cannes. I run blah, blah, blah." And we started talking for 10 minutes. And for nice introduction for me. And after that, I asked him, "Did you actually meet him in Cannes?" I said, "No." And this is a piece of advice I'm happy to share with you guys. When in Cannes, just say that. We met in Cannes. But that means more than we had a conversation. It doesn't matter, people in this business see so many people that they forgot who they met, blah, blah, blah. But it just means you're part of the same family, of the same environment. And you're not level, but you open the door where you're legitimate. So if you're smart, your next sentence is something that you need to prepare, which is what you want. What do you want? You want to make a movie with him? I would suggest for young filmmakers, say that your next sentence is not "let's do a movie together," but let's have another meeting. Let's have another occasion where we can speak a little bit more about the project I have, which I think will be of interest for you. Instead of take a look at my project, and no, maybe it doesn't have the time. So just prepare for a next meeting, but this works. The other piece of advice, speaking of Cannes, while we're here, is bring your big camera, big photo camera or recording thing, and whenever you see a party that seems loud, and go for it and say, "I work for filmfestivals.com," and they'll let you in. Because that's your chance to maybe meet someone that will help build your team. Use the festivals to build your team and meet people. And the best way to advance your career is to have festival occasions where you meet people, you mingle, you go to cocktails, you go to a press office, you name it. You do mingle, and luckily win prizes and brag about it and continue. And the next step after that is to talk to people who have the power to help your film sell, sales agent, and they are all there. Everyone is there in Cannes, buyers, sales agents, and everything in between. So film festivals is a place where things can happen, and I told you I've seen it. The best example I can give, the long story is on the internet. You Google Boys in the Hood, Bruno Chatelin, you'll find it. You'll find the explanation of how I did what I did, which in the end turned into a career opener for John Singleton. Basically, just to tell it short, he was a student in LA with he got tuition. Because he was working. He was from South Central LA, a very poor area, and made a film that was a kind of the first social film about the black communities, especially in that tough area. And they sent us in Paris the film. We shared it with Cannes Festival, which said, yeah, you're in. And that was, I believe, in February. Cannes is May, so February, March, April, May. We had 4 months to build it. And we did it. Long story, you Google, you'll see how. In the end, the head of the studio, Frank Price, when I walked him to his plane, said to me, thank everyone in your team, you did a great job, fantastic job. It changed the perception of a movie. First thing I do back at the office is change the box office estimate. Basically, what he thought the film would do in North America, Canada, and USA. And he told me, I have it for 30 million. The producer's gross. No, actually, box office, sorry. 30 million. And he said, I'm going to change that in view of everything, the reception of the movie, what you did, all the media attention, etc. I'm going to put 50 million. So that's US only, US and Canada. And basically we're selling 20 million additional business because of Cannes. You guys hear that. This is how much it can bring. Now, take this figure, multiply by 2.5 or something, because it's not only US, but worldwide. And the worldwide those days were maybe 60% of so what he was telling me with a nice warm handshake was Cannes produced or helped Sony get an increase of box office estimated to, let's say, $50 million. Wow. They didn't spend that much to bring that cash because they just flew. We flew John Singleton. We asked also Ice Cube, who was in the movie, and we asked him to come and rap. And his two scratchers. Well.
Wow, bravo.
And yeah, it's the how is a very interesting story. Basically, it's we achieved that by being very authentic to what the film was, true to the film. So the advice for aspiring film marketing people is don't stick pre-made, pre-thought solutions to a specific movie. Just work the one that's inside, and take the core of it. And bring it to life rather than do the same thing over and over again. Even when you have a franchise, Rambo 2, 3, 4, 5, you don't launch it the same way. You have to come up with a different approach every time. And by the way, what I forgot to say earlier when we made these estimates of what it's going to bring and how much you spend, there's a very big difference when you launch, as I did, Independence Day or Terminator 2 or Hook by Spielberg or things like that. And when you do Woody Allen, which I did, I launched 3 or 4 of his movies. And in this case, and I'm talking for France specifically, the media love him. And they didn't pay so much attention as they did in the States, where his career almost ended up when there was this thing about he quitting Maya Farrow and going with the daughter, I mean the girl they had adopted. And the people loved him so much that we had this built-in publicity from goodwill and
You need to round up because we have Jerome now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
1 minute.
so
Okay.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll cut.
If you have to resume all of this conversation, give 5 advice for those young creators, can you resume it?
Okay, well, build a profile on filmfestivals.com and mostly blow your own horn. So you have a film, make a little website for your film, or build your profile on filmfestivals.com, because you have 170,000 film professionals, all the big media, the buyers, the sales agents. That's one. 2, try to find someone who can help you with marketing. It's not necessarily the same job, the same head, and trust the people who are professionals in that field, and make sure for your film you have at least the elements like a trailer, a poster, a good synopsis. Work on it, rewrite it, and share it. And last, or maybe not one of the key, most important advice is make a pitch, good pitch, short pitch. The elevator pitch should be fast. If you need 5 minutes to tell the story of your movie, you're fried, you're done. No one will listen. And last, yes, build your network and use the film festivals as the platform where you meet the people that will help you, and stick to the good people you meet there. And whenever you are selected in a festival, make sure that every movie you do afterwards, you offer that film to the festival director who help you launch. And that's how you build your network. Thank you. Thank you, Sissy.
Thank you, Bruno.
See you in Cannes then.
See you in Cannes.
Bye.